Hello and welcome to Tete a Tete, France 24's flagship interview show. Our guest this week is Mo Ibrahim. He's a famous Sudanese-British billionaire and philanthropist. His foundation is focused on improving governance and leadership in Africa, and he joins us from Monaco. Thank you very much for being our guest, Mr. Ibrahim.
Thank you for having me.
So every year, your foundation is supposed to give an award, a prize for achievement in African leadership to an outgoing chief of state of governance who did a good job. However, you have not given that award since 2020. Clearly, there's a message there. What is it?
The message is clear, really. We have seen deterioration of governance and good leadership in Africa, unfortunately. We have achieved greater progress at the beginning of the century for the first 10, 15 years. But then there was stagnation. And in the recent year, actually, there was some deterioration in governance. We have, unfortunately, too many conflicts, too many strong men. Strong men are back in fashion, I think not only in Africa, but everywhere now. And it is a problem, obviously, and we have to be honest. And the prize committee has its integrity, and we have to accept what they decide.
Obviously, as you mentioned, I mean, we've seen coups in the Sahel, in Guinea, and now, just recently, in Madagascar. How do you explain this return of not only the strong man, but the military strong man?
It is really unfortunate. I mean, we had so much of that after independence, after 1960, for a few years or some bad time. Unfortunately, it's coming back. And we don't think military coup doesn't come out of a vacuum. There are reasons always, and the reasons mainly will be the failure of the civilian government to deliver to its people, whether security, or progress or equality, and that is really unfortunate because military coup don't achieve anything. Since independence, Africa had 160 military takeovers. 80 of them succeeded. But Mark, not a single coup achieved anything for our people. This is really the history and the facts about that. It's a bad consequence of bad governance, but it introduces even worse governance.
There's also a problem. It's presidents clinging to power, often through constitutional changes and so on. You have presidents who've been there for decades. This is also a problem affecting many, many countries in Africa.
It's true. It is really unfortunate. And we can, I mean, we're having now the elections in Cameroon. We have the longest serving president in the world in Cameroon. And at 90 years or 92 years old, is seeking a further term. It's totally unacceptable. And power corrupts, Mark, unfortunately. And that's what is happening. And we live in a world today where the rule of law, spirit of cooperation and good governance is fracturing, really, not in Africa, everywhere. And that encourages people in Africa to say, I can do the same. You look around you, you can see a number of very strong men everywhere who are clinging to power and exercising power in a very brutal way. And so for an African leader, say, why not me? And unfortunately, given the weak institutions, and the diminishing space for the civil society, they managed to do it.
Do you think Donald Trump is also sending messages across the continent as you're smiling?
Not only Donald Trump, there's a lot more than that.
The last person who got the award, Mahamadou Issoufou, president of Niger in 2020, he did leave power. He did not try to stay. However, he's been suspected of having played a part in the coup that ousted his still jailed, as we speak, successor, Mohamed Bazoum. What is your take on this?
We are very disappointed in the continuous imprisonment of the legal president of Niger, Mohamed Bazoum. He's a wonderful man, and there's no basis at all for his detention. And unfortunately, the international community is silent about this. I know Niger has uranium, maybe it was just interest to some people, but and some countries were too hesitant to even describe what happened in Niger as a coup. We have seen that, and that was really unfortunate. As for President Issoufou, we have been in conversation with him, and we asking him to help in the release of President Bazoum, and we have no way to ascertain what role President Issoufou played in that. I have lengthy discussions with him, and he denies that completely. And I have no evidence or smoking gun. So we are in that space, and all what we're asking now is for him to stand up and try to convince the junta to release President Bazoum.
I alluded to President Trump. One of his key decisions are massive cuts in U.S. aid. But the U.S. is not the only one. We see European countries, because of their budgetary problems at home, also reducing aid. And this has an immediate impact on many African lives, especially those in poor areas. How catastrophic is it?
It is terrible. It is terrible for many reasons. I think to cut aid immediately with no notice is not only cruel but also brutal, because you have somebody in intensive care or receiving medications or even in the operating theater, and then you just take off the oxygen from that person. You cut off the medication of that person. That is cruel. I totally accept the sovereignty of every country to give aid or not to give aid. That is a sovereign decision, and it is a right to do that. But if you decide to cut aid, you give notice. Tell people, okay, next year I'm gonna stop the aid. You give people a chance to come in and fill the gap, but to just cut off life support from vulnerable people at no notice at all is not only cruel but brutal.
Last issue, because I do want to talk about it. It's your native country, Sudan. It's
Yes.
witnessing a brutal civil war between two generals, Al-Burhan and Hemeti, with foreign backing, I should add, on each side. Half of the population is acutely food insecure. It's the worst displacement crisis in the world. The world doesn't seem to care. What is your reaction to this?
It's terrible. It's terrible. This is the worst tragedy today in the world. And the suffering of people there exceeds that of Ukrainians and Gazan put together, with respect, of course, to what's happening elsewhere. But the suffering there is much higher, and nobody's paying attention there. Nobody is paying attention. And even the humanitarian aid to the country is just minimal, is nothing. it is almost less than 5% per person compared to Ukraine, for example. And that doesn't count military aid to Ukraine. I'm talking about humanitarian aid. It's terrible. And the war itself is just crazy. It is power-hungry people fighting for resources and power and destroying the country and whatever little we have in that process. It's terrible. And that should not have been allowed to continue. But again, it's a different world, Mark, now. I mean, the international community is not interested at all to what is happening elsewhere. This would not have happened 10 years ago.
Mo Ibrahim, that's all we have time for. I want to thank you very much for being our guest here on France 24. And thank you for watching this edition of Tête à Tête.
Thank you.